And finally, I'd like to turn to Shellye for her comments.
Wonderful. Thank you all for having me here today, and especially thank you, Erin and Lee and the UC system for the invitation to join this discussion. It's been a very exciting and informative day for me. So I am a food system researcher and an agricultural economist by training, and I'm most interested in kind of the intersection between food policy and other public policies that exist in the US economy, and that impact between that intersection on sustainability within the food system. So whether that's energy policy or climate policy, perhaps land use policy or local food policy, I'm most interested in understanding more about sustainability, and not just environmental sustainability, but economic sustainability, social sustainability, cultural sustainability, and all the other things that we hope to preserve, as residents of a community. So for me, it's kind of been an interesting career. So I took a 3-year break from research to try my hand at food policy making at the municipal government level. And so it was a very interesting experience for me. See, I didn't last very long. I only lasted for 3 years. But when I was with the city of Indianapolis, there was the problem that folks were experiencing, given the fact that food insecure households often are very new to food insecurity, like we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic. Typically people, can afford groceries, can afford to keep their household fed. An unfortunate event will happen that will put this family into food insecurity. And so they're not familiar with this extremely complex network of the charitable food system, the federal and state food and nutrition systems. It's just very difficult and overwhelming for folks to navigate. And so we wondered at the time, could there be a technology solution for the lack of kind of transparency network? We kind of worked towards a technology that, I apologize, my internet seems to be a little unstable, but we worked towards a technology solution to help residents navigate the charitable food system. And so this was really my first foray into HCI and food systems. I had no background in whatsoever as an ag economist. And so given my naivete about technology development, I was extremely surprised about 2 things. And so the first thing I would say was that it took 3 years to create the technology. I thought you just had an idea, gave it to like a group who make $200,000 a year and drive Teslas, and it was done in a week. They're hard workers, they're getting paid a ton of money, they'll work on it 48 hours, boom, you're done. And it did not work out like that. I was pretty surprised. I was like, I know you guys make a lot of money, this kind of needs to happen a little faster. So it started in 2017. We actually had Caravan Studios, so that's the app development arm of TechSoup, come out to Indianapolis. They hosted a design thinking session that was really enlightening and eye-opening for all of us who worked in social and human services. It all started with construction paper, markers, glue, sitting around thinking about those ideas on how to help residents navigate food systems. And so by 2020, fortunately, 3 years later, we were live in the app stores and had a technology, a multi-channel technology ready for Indianapolis residents to help them navigate this system. And I would say second thing I was most surprised about is that it took a ton of money. Nobody tells you, when you create a widget, I thought, oh, we just get the money to build the widget. The widget will exist, yay, team. And they said, no, things update. You got to keep paying us to keep it going or it won't work anymore. And so I said, oh, wow, you should really tell people this up front before you make them sign a contract. So, we had to kind of work with community partners, local funders to keep the technology going. But I would say we've had great success with the technology. Unfortunately, there was the kind of pain in seeing it used so much during the COVID-19 pandemic. So originally we budgeted for about 15,000 users a year. We exceeded 16,000 users by April of 2020. But local funders were more than happy to step in so we could increase the capacity. make sure the technology was up to date during the pandemic, and that continues today, partnerships with community members. So those were just kind of two points I'd like to make, for those of us who are not in this space, it is surprising, but, kind of through the 3 years that we were developing that product, it was really eye-opening for me to see all of that went into it, all of the, mindfulness, the really thoughts about how humans would interact with the technology, what works best for low-income households or households who are experiencing food insecurity. So it was a great experience overall. But I would say now that I'm back into research, I've been collaborating with colleagues in informatics at Penn State, and we're looking to understand how might technology assist urban farmers in improving profitability given the tight margins in the a local food system in an urban environment. They don't have the land availability to kind of achieve the economic efficiencies of large scale production other folks would achieve. And so, this is important for me, not only the work that my colleagues in informatics are doing, but just thinking about this through the lens of economic theory. So in economics, we would say that people are rational agents. So you know much more about your life than I know, and that will always be the case. There will be nothing about technology that tells me more about your life than you know yourself. But in this instance, knowing that people are rational agents, they know what they're doing. There are still instances where there are market failures. So if I understood correctly, when Dr. Khalid was speaking earlier, she was talking about knots in the system. So as an economist, we would think about the knots in this system being market failures. So there's an inefficiency in the distribution of goods and services in a community or market. And this is something the government is typically looking to improve upon. But the government, only has so many techniques it can use in its toolbox. So my colleagues in informatics and I, they're going to do the ethnographic analysis to understand, what urban growers need, how their production practices are occurring. But I'm also most interested in the lack of transparency and understanding in local markets. There's a lot of tension between consumers and their need for low prices, and then what urban growers can produce at cost. And so understanding kind of the push and pull in this market scenario is important. And so we're curious to know, is there a technological solution? But also, as an economist, I'm also curious to know about the opportunity cost of accepting technology. So we have a concept known as that opportunity cost is if I'm engaging in activity A, that means I can't do B, C, D, etc. So I also want to know if they are, we are creating a technology or the user is engaging in that technology, could something else exist that can get them the same benefit, the same level of, utility or happiness in some other way. So I'm very excited. We're actually submitting a grant this summer to USDA to look further into this. But I would say, the primary reason I'm continuing this vein, I just really had so much fun with you technology folks. It was very exciting for me. So I look forward to more research in this area. Thank you.